guys and gals. This is Drew from Drew Allen Brown Studios coming to you from Idaho. It's finally warming up a little tiny bit, so it's kind of nice. Today I want to talk to you guys about compressors, and specifically compressing audio inside your DAW, which is your digital audio workstation, if you're new to this. So what we're looking at here right now on your screen, we've got a very simple Pro Tools session file. In fact, this is the same session file we had open last time with EQ, with the basic EQ 101. And this is just basically going to be the same thing, but for compressors. We're going to do compressor 101. So I'll give you a chance here to listen to this real fast. Basically, this was same friend. It's the same file. So have a friend who is a concert violist and does some beautiful stuff. Was performing at a church at Christmas time this last year, and so this is just an old session file that I've got pulled up and open. It's 2 channels. It's 2 tracks. So you've got viola, you've got piano. It's really basic. It's really simple. I chose this because 2 tracks is pretty common for home studio environment for singer-songwriter. Just getting into this, you want to look at something simple so that you're not getting overwhelmed with 30 different tracks. Yes, if you follow the mouse here, we've got delay, we've got reverb. That's my main mix, and then we've got the master channel so that you can watch this. On my other screen, which you don't get to see right now, I have the mix window up, which gives you kind of the fader view and gives you a little bit different detail. This is your edit view to where you get the waveforms. The other one's the mix view. So let's give you a second to take a listen to this so you can see what we're dealing with today. Okay, I don't know if you noticed this. If you're paying attention here, you take a look here. You can see these waveforms and how these waveforms here, they grow a lot. There's a lot of dynamics in this music. You get really, really small here, growing, and you start getting some really decent sized spikes. But while you're going through this, if you're watching the meter here on the left, it's not changing a ton. So you're not getting a ton of dynamic through the meter. A little bit. You get that the full feel of the dynamics, and you don't lose really any dynamics here. And in fact, right now we actually have both compressors on this muted. They're bypassed, so we don't have any compression running on this track at all. You still get tons of dynamics because there's no compressors changing that, but you're not getting. It was recorded well, for one. I mean, it's with what we had to deal with, it was recorded fairly well. So, you're not clipping, you're not having any audio go through there, having any major issues. But the dynamics feel right. You're not over dynamic. You're not getting too quiet in places and then too loud in other places. But it could be leveled out a little bit. And that's what we're going to do with a compressor. A compressor, here, I'll close that back down actually. A compressor, essentially, you're going to set a threshold where you can put a bar up here. And anytime the audio goes past that bar, it's going to squash that back down a little bit, by a ratio that you set, and how fast and how slowly, and how fast it hits it, and how hard or how quickly then it releases that audio back, and you can control all of that. But the other part of a compressor is then you can take the other audio that you have here that's not going over that threshold, not going over that bar that you set, and you can louden that up, make it louder to where it's closer to the threshold, which brings it more up front, brings it a little bit more present, and a little bit more controllable. You would think, just out of concept here, you would think that that would really make it lose dynamics. It doesn't. You don't really lose dynamics unless you really, really push it hard and you do a bunch of it. You'll see we have two of them. That's kind of a technique. It's used a lot for like lead vocals to bring that vocal up front. If you're mixing a song and you got vocals and you've got a compressor on it or something, it seems like at spots it fits right in the mix, and at other points it just is a little quiet. It's almost sitting in the mix instead of right on the edge of in the mix and on top, and so it almost blends too much with the music, and you need to pull it out more. But if you push the volume, it gets too loud. That's what that second compressor is for. Is you don't have to increase the volume at all. It's just going to push that through the rest of the way. Anyway, let's take a look here. That's more than a 101, so you get a bonus there. Let's take a look here at what we've got inside a compressor. I'm going to unbypass this one here. So again, we've got our levels, which you always want to take a look at your levels. Make sure you've got this little bubble up here, which is going to tell you if you're clipping it. You've got your in, so this is the audio that's going into the compressor and how high it gets and how hot it gets, versus out, because with the compressor, you can easily add more audio. A lot of people do that. They add a compressor just to make things louder. So you'll have your audio here in, and sometimes you'll get it up there out. You get your gain reduction here. Your GR is your gain reduction. So every time it goes past the threshold, which is essentially this orange bar here on this graph, you'll see it drop down. And this is telling you by how much, by 1 dB, by 3 dB, by 6 dB, 12 dB. I like Graham. I watch Graham a bit, just for fun. And, it's always great to look and see, hey, am I missing anything? Just get somebody else's idea and somebody else's take and try it. And, it works well. And I agree with him. I've done that too. I run compressors pretty much the same way as he does. I like to see the compressor ride, -3 when it hits to between -3 and -6. I don't like to see it get past that -6. A lot of times I have a hard time letting it get past, -3. So let's take a look here. Again, here's your graph. It's telling you, your decibels. So you got your comp and your limiter, your compressor and limiter, your knee. I typically don't change the knee a whole lot. You can, and what it's doing is if you're watching here, it's just going to change the slope of that. I usually leave it at 0. Ratio 3-to-1 is very, very common. I usually keep it there, and then if I don't get the feel that I want, then I'll change it up. Attack, kind of a medium attack at 10 milliseconds, which is how quickly the compressor is going to pull the volume back once it hits that threshold. Release is how quickly it's going to put the fader back up, essentially, how quickly it's putting the audio back to its normal setting after it drops back down. And again, 80 milliseconds, that's about a medium speed release. So it's set to a pretty generic setting, but honestly, the generic settings work fine for a lot of things. 0 dB gain. If you read the blog, or if you haven't read the blog, it's drewallenbrown.com/blog. Go under the compression one, and I have a picture of my actual hardware compressor that I use. It's a DBX 166 XL, and this is the gain knob that I talk about in that article. This is the software version of that, to where you can bump the gain. This is where you can take these lower waveforms and get them closer to the threshold, which makes things a lot more present. Your threshold here is your actual threshold. That's where you're setting the bar, -24. I find it easier to just click over here. You have this arrow. You can click and actually drag the arrow. And if you notice here, it moves that while you do it. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. Use your ears, use your eyes. Let's watch this, and we'll go ahead and just get this compressor set. You want to set this to where when it hits, it doesn't really go past that. So that's too much already. Now, I will say in this song, there's a reason that I chose this spot. This is the loudest spot in the song, which is where you want to set your compressor. You want to set your compressor at the hottest point. And this is where the highest peaks are. This is the loudest spot in the song. To me, this is almost, this is set a little, it's set a little too much to me. If you look over here, we're over this a lot, almost the whole time. And it is going between -3 and -6, but it's too much setting to me. So I'll pull that back. Let's watch that again. Again, we're going over it a bit, but now we're not hitting it hardly at all. Now we're getting that gain reduction of not even -1. So that's too much. So we'll put a little bit more of that in there. I like to see it -2 and -4. -3 is the sweet spot for me. And most times, not always. Use your ears. Softening up. That's good. That's good for me. Now, let's watch this again and let's compare the in and out. Notice the out is lower than the in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to bring this gain up to try to level it. We're bringing it down by about 3 dB, so it's not a big deal to put that up again by about 3 dB. Notice now the quiet spots, the out is louder, but when this really hits, it should be leveling out about. So about level. It's actually lower. About level. That's good. That's a good setting. Now, that's a really good setting right there. And the 3-to-1 sounds really good on this. I've done this a couple times, so just for fun. And it works. The 3-to-1 is just a great way to use that. You can sidechain this compressor, which is really cool. Nowhere near a 101 level thing, so we're not going to worry about that. You can copy and paste these guys, which is kind of cool. But I've already got one open here. So I'm just going to unlock the other here and bypass that. We're just going to match the settings. To give you that idea here really, really quick. Oops. We're at 16.4. So we'll bring that about the same spot. 16.4. We're up at 3.5. 3.4 is fine. Ratio is 3-to-1. Knees fine. Attack. So we're just going to essentially match that. And I'm going to bypass here and let you hear the difference between a single compressor and a double compressor so that you can tell what having that second compressor does. We'll actually turn that off to what that second compressor does to the mix. You notice we're still compressing, but it's usually not quite as much. Let's do it again here. This is unbypassed. Bypass. Mission reveal, come out. Nice and present. See, it almost softens it. It's nice and up front. Nice and up front, nice and present, beautiful sounding. It's what compressors do. It's essentially a fader, a volume fader, for once the volume hits a certain level, it pulls it back. And you set with your attack how quickly it's going to hit. It's how quickly it's going to pull it back. With your release, how quickly it's going to go back. You can change your knee, so you can actually change what the actual waveform looks like and how you're hitting it. Your ratio, 3-to-1, up to 101 on this, which is a pretty nasty ratio. And if you look at this, see this line here, this 1-to-1 means you're not doing anything. You're not really compressing at all. And then you can go up to 2-to-1, you get a little bit of a compression. You get your 3-to-1, which is what it was set at, and you get a little bit more compression. And that red ball that you get here is actually showing you, if you did 1-to-1, the audio would be following that same progression, same trajectory. When you do the 3-to-1 or whatever you're doing, you'll notice that red ball kind of drops down. It starts curving off towards that. That's showing you what the compression is doing. So that's it. In a nutshell, that is compression. That's what compression is doing for you. And that's using the stock Dyne 3 compressor that is built into Pro Tools. So if you get Pro Tools, this is the one that comes with it. If you get something else, you'll have something else, but they work pretty much the same way. They work the same way. Even the hardwares work the same way. You just have to look at it and say, okay, here's your attack, here's your release, here's your ratio, your output gain, and your threshold. As long as you know where you can get to all that, you can use any compressor. They all work the same way. Anyway, I'm Drew Brown. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody. This is Compression.